command, if you want to, if we take a look at where slash question mark, actually I want to look at, it's not really showing you in the syntax, is it, now that I'm looking at, I will look at the slash QFT in a second, but look at some of the examples, and some of the newer commands actually have examples at the end of the list, which can be helpful. So notice that obviously the slash question mark, I have not noted, but you can have multiple parameters. Okay, so I could have said where notepad format, and then it's, oops, then it's actually going to look for notepad format. There you go. I don't know what I did before. Okay, so then it's actually going to look for both. So in other words, I can look for more than one file at a time. Again, if there's no wildcards, then it's going to search for that particular file by that name with an executable extension. If I had wildcards, then it would have applied the wildcards to the format. But the other examples, first I will look at this one. No, I don't want to look at that one. We'll look at this one, but actually there's not an example like I wanted to do, so I think I'll just do a totally different example. If I wanted to start searching in a particular folder and only include that folder, I don't want to include the search path, and I don't want to include my current location. Okay, I want to tell the command where to search. I want it to search that directory and only that directory, and I want to search for a particular file or a particular pattern of files. So the way that the structure of that command is formatted is different, and it's actually here, it's just that it's searching three places. Primarily the colon at the end between where you want to search and what you want to search for. You end it with a colon. So I'm going to start with just searching one location. So if I did something like where t:\\/cis work : okay, so that says look in this directory, okay, and I want all files that have a txt extension. Okay, so the syntax of this is very different than the previous two. I'm separating the place that I want to search and what I want to search for with a colon. Okay, and that says, this format says search that directory only. Okay, in other words, not subdirectories. Do not include subdirectories in the search. Don't include the search path. Don't include my current location. Okay, only the directory I've specified. So in this case, if I've specified the CIS work directory on the T drive for all files that have *.txt, then you'll see that's exactly what it did. Okay, but notice this output is an absolute path versus having done it with the dir command. The dir command would have shown me what I call sometimes a sloppier or a messier output. Okay, so in many cases it's a matter of how do I want the output to look, and do I need it to look in a certain way, because maybe then I'm going to put it in a file and use that file for something else. Okay, so again, the where command with that colon at the end, I think if you look at the sample, or the example at the end here, this is just pointing out that this is going to look in the Windows directory and in the Windows System 32 directory for all files that have a DLL extension. So I can separate the directory names. If I wanted to search in more than one place, I can separate the directory names with a semicolon. But once I've listed all the directories that I want to include, then I put a colon, and then what I want to search for. Again, in this case, that's going to look in the Windows directory and in the System 32 directory. Not in any of its subdirectories, not in my current location, not in the search path. Okay? So it's a matter of understanding how that works, or how the way the where command is written controls where it actually searches. So obviously understanding that is going to be helpful in effectively using it. And then that $, remember variables, guys. I mentioned them earlier in the semester. There are variables. If I wanted to move to my profile folder, I could do cd percent user profile percent, and that's going to put me in my profile folder. Remember, there are a bunch of variables we've looked at. If I type set followed by the letter P, it's going to show me a list of all the variables on this computer that have a name that start with the letter P. We've looked at, or I mentioned back when we talked about the actual directories that are part of the Windows installation, and that some of those directories actually have a variable name that stores their value. So you can see here, for example, the program data folder, the program files folder, the program files x86. These variables actually are can be used to reference. So if I said cd percent, of course I already forgot what that variable name was, set p program data. So if I said cd percent program data percent, it's going to move me to that program data folder. Okay, so it's going to look at, if I say echo percent program data percent, it's going to show me the value of that variable. Okay, so if you wanted to search a folder with the where command, and that folder had a variable associated with it, you could use the variable's name in the command. Okay, if I said where, and let me just do, so notice that Winder is a variable, and Winder's variable value is c:\Windows. Okay, so I could say where percent Winder percent colon Notepad. Let's just say I was looking for Notepad in that folder. Okay, so notice that it searched the directory that represents that variable. Okay, in this case here, the Windows directory. For whatever reason, it works. If you use the traditional way to reference a variable in a command is by surrounding the variable name with percent signs. That's the traditional way. It works all the time with all commands. Okay. For whatever reason, the where command, you'll notice its example here, I use that same variable, is putting a $sign before the variable name. So that works too. Okay, so I could have said where $Winder, that's the variable name, but instead of surrounding it with percent signs, a $sign before it does the trick. And again, if I use the same exact command, except this time using the variable with a $sign instead of with a percent, oops. I don't know why I did that last time too, that it gave me the syntax. Anyway, so you can see, and if I execute it with the variable name, you get the same output. Okay, but if documentation, for whatever reason, with the where command always refers to a variable with a $sign before the variable name, but it still works if you just use the traditional method of referencing a variable. Questions on the where command? Oh, the other parameters, where /?, the returns only the exit code. Will have when you get into batch files and scripting, you can execute a where command, and maybe you really don't want to see the output. You just want to know, did it find a match? Okay, based on if I'm writing a batch file that's running behind the scenes, and the batch file is searching for a particular file, and if it found the file, then I want it to do this. If it didn't find the file, then I want it to do something else. Then typically what you might be looking at is the exit code for that where command. In other words, I don't need to see the output. I just want to know, did the command work or not? Okay, and that's where the /q, so if I actually executed this and did a /q, notice I don't get any output. Okay, but a value was stored in an exit code. That, again, we won't be using this class, but I just wanted to point that what that /q stands for. So /q does not, it kind of is quiet, right? It doesn't show the output. /f displays the matched file name in double quotes, and /t displays the file size. So let's look at this command with the /t. you can see slash T again. Notice this is actually showing output that's looks more like the dir command's output in the fact that it's showing you file size, date and time, and so on. Okay, so you could actually get that output with the where command. And the other one was F, was it? Slash F? Yeah, so notice this output has quotes around it. Okay, so again, if I know I'm going to be taking a command's output and using it as input to another command, and spaces might be an issue, then I might probably want to use that slash F. It says take my output, make sure there's quotes around everything, so then if I then take that command and use it as input to another command and that second command has an issue with spaces, then I know that my quotes are going to be there. Okay, so again, in many cases it's a matter of what am I going to do with, if I'm just looking for the file and I don't really care, I'm not going to be using that in another command, then that's kind of not really necessary. But if I know I'm going to be taking that output, maybe even storing it in a file and then taking that file and using it as input to a command, then quotes might be an issue. Any questions with the where command?